picture. Yo, just y'all chill right here, man. All right, here we go. 1, 2. I can't resist the sunlight. You know, it looks sweet in here. So,
my name is Yusuf Abdulatif, and I'm a visual artist and educator, but more so in the context of while we're here, I would consider myself a friend of Jay. You always gotta, renew that though. You don't want to think. One, I just want to give a round of applause to Jay and his work right now in this room. I'll just preface this by saying we had a discussion the other day, but we talk a lot, periodically about things. I guess I have really mainly a few things, and it'll probably matriculate from there. But if you had the opportunity, as an artist as you are, what would you want someone to, is there a question that if you ran into yourself on the street, what would you want to say to yourself? What would you say to yourself?
Man, dude, we can't. That's a hell of a question to start with. Yo, I don't know what I would say to me, man. Like, that's crazy. I'll be like surprised that I noticed myself. You know what I'm saying? I'll be surprised. Yeah. There you are. Yeah. And I have a twin brother, so like I can literally say that. Like, there you are.
Yeah, right.
Right. That's a question, dude. I guess like, if I bumped into myself on the street, I would just, just like with anybody, man, I say what up, and just kind of like check in and see how you are, or see how I am. Just because of knowing myself and all of the processes and all the things that I walk around with and the weight that I create between, A and Z, I would just like kind of check in on myself and like, just see you if I'm cool, Mm-hmm. For me, like with the type of work, and I don't know if everybody in the room is familiar with what I do, but a lot of my work involves me just walking through neighborhoods. And we most of us in here are born and raised in Toledo. We know Toledo has those points where it just kind of drops off, where there's inactivity, there's nobody hanging out outside, there's nothing, it's just pin drop quiet. On a day like today, or if it was 90 degrees out, it could be super silent. So a lot of those walks are like meditative. And you question everything. You question your day, you question, the people around you, the people you want to know, the people you don't want to know. You question all of these things. So if I saw myself on the street and I had a chance to rap with me, I would probably say like, dude, are you cool? Like that's probably like, that's how I would dive into that.
I've seen you at work.
Yeah.
And the way you, in general, and I've met you before I knew you were a photographer.
Yeah, we were doing beats. And you actually DJ'd one of my exhibitions. Yeah.
And it was one of the coolest events.
It was dope. It was a dope day, man.
So we were bonding around music.
Yeah.
And then I learned that you're a writer.
Yeah.
And, both of those aspects, I have, DJs are funny, they're if I were to generalize it, they seem like you would think they're very extroverted because DJing, whatever, but they get into the music and they're actually very introverted folk,
Yeah.
They communicate through the music,
Yeah.
what they select.
Yeah.
And also, you being a writer, that's also a very invisible practice.
Yeah.
Do you see a connection between the way you frame your writing and the way that you frame the photographs that you take?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've always been like a low-key, like awkward kid, you know, person, adult, whatever. So like my form of communication has always been like artistic. Like that's the only way that I feel like I'm able to like really speak to people. And that's, you know, I don't know. I mean, with the photography too, like there's that connection. Like my courage comes from like having my camera, which is why I take it everywhere. I'm able to like connect with people. When it's just me as a person, like that connection is like, it's rough for me to like converse with people, you know? And like my job is dealing with the public, and like I feel like, you know, I can kind of hide behind my badge. I'm a supervisor, and so there's certain things that I have to meet. But when it comes to the creative side and the communication side, like it's definitely something that speaks through music. You know, even as a kid, like I can play the piano. Like we've always had like an artistic family. Got a Dave that's hanging out in here can speak to this too. That's my nephew. A lot of people don't know that. They say cousin, but that's my flesh and blood right there. And we've always had some form of art like running through our family. And like for me, like that expression, you know, because I was dumb quiet, has always been like through writing. It's always been first and foremost, even as, you know, as a kid, like I used to write a lot. And that became like poetry, and then it became like the music thing, and, you know, now it's photography. But that connection is definitely like my like ultimate like form of communication, which is kind of why I obsess over it, you know, because it allows me to talk to so many people. Yeah. But you know, and develop like solid friendships along the way. But I don't know if what I would be doing without that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I don't know, but
I just see this. It's a very natural partnership, and like how you make. Like I'm not a photographer.
Yeah.
And I seen you in conversation with other photographers.
Yeah.
And y'all can talk aperture for like 90 years. Like it's just like, you know, it's amazing because you're, you know, it's specific to like what type of camera, you know, what does the film do, you know, you know, it's always an experiment. Everything is an experiment. And even with like the advent of digital, here you are going through and taking the time to actually like develop.
Yeah.
Right? Like that right there is again a whole nother layer of like introspect, and like you're in this little space, you know, and you don't know what's gonna come out.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You're out there, you can't go back and check to see what that photograph looks like.
Right.
So there's this idea of trust, you know.
No, I like that you said that, because there's a ton of trust that comes with it. Like I can't, and I've shared this before with people, like I can't operate a digital camera. It's too much access, it's too much freedom, and I have like panic attacks. Like I'm always thinking like, did I do this? Should I do that? It's just too many features. So in order to make life like gentler for myself, like I had to like go back to film because I could control that process. But the funny thing that emerges from that is that I take greater risks with my film camera. Like I'm not afraid to shoot in any environment, and win or lose, like as long as I did it, like that's my win. Yeah. But like I don't have the patience. If you want to see me like break down, and my man Hunter, I wish he was in here, but I was like helping him shoot one of his records. Actually, we were over here, and he had a digital camera, and it had like the little window that comes out. And like, I was like, dude, I cannot do this. I was like, bro, I can't do this. I can't, man. And he was like, just hold the camera like this. I'm like, dude, I can't do this, man. And I'm like having like a real legit breakdown. But once I closed that screen and I shot blindly, everything like came together. It all made sense. But I just like, for me, and the risk, like less is more to me.
Yeah.
So it's different, man. Like I can't have the tools that like a lot of like, you know, modern cats have. Like I gotta have something that limits my abilities, because that makes me work harder and it makes me a bit more comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And it challenges me to go further with what I have in my hands. So like that I feel like that like it's like OCD in a way sometimes.
No, look, we're both awkward people.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like we find ourselves in like social,
Right.
like I'm a good actor. I'm a good performer. Like I'm real.
Yeah.
But I know that like the Yusuf that's animating myself right now is very guarded.
Yeah. Which is funny that you say that, dude, because a lot of cats, man, I always say this is my unofficial mentor. If anybody is familiar with Yusuf, he does a lot. Super encouraging. Like, I'm always watching what he does. And like, even with this show, like I compare it to what he had last year, you know, around this time. When I walked in, I was like, man, I got to do something like this, you know? So like, there's always this level of encouragement that comes from you. So, that cool Yusuf influences a lot of cats, man. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like I'm one of those people. But
I think you've seen where I'm not.
Where you lie. Yeah. That vulnerability like though, man.
Yeah, we're vulnerable.
Yeah.
But it kind of goes into this idea of like this inward thing and then this outward thing. So now so you're in the dark room, you're processing the film.
Yeah. People
don't realize how much work that is. You're tall. You're crouched down.
Yeah.
You got back problems now. You know, like people. So that's that's the dark room, the dark space.
Yeah.
And I was asking you if you had read, or you have it, The Invisible Man, right? I ran into one of your classmates here, and she was saying how she was interested in a portrait, but then the thing that really like grabbed her attention was what was going on in the background, because she starts investigating like what's happening or where the person is. Yeah. You know? For example, one of the photos is a woman, in the background is a brick wall. And we're like, man, where is that at? Yeah. You know, and then we saw another photograph that revealed more of the wall. And we're like, that's on Door Street. Yeah. He worked in that area, in the Junction area. It's what you said, one of your stomping grounds where you actually do a lot of photographing. Yeah. You know, and we start to realize that you have this, for me, it's a Midwestern eye. You know, you could be anywhere. You could be on the coast, but I feel like you're still gonna take a picture. Yeah, definitely. What is that? I don't know, man. I heard we're cordial people. Yeah, maybe there's that kindness there. Man, the people, when I made that photograph, man, look, here's a sidebar for that situation. Because it was actually funny. When I made that picture, and it's on the wall, there's a lady over there. I know there's so many pictures over there, and there's a few women in it, but there's a lady sitting next to, it should be, maybe it's not. It's top right. Top right. Yes. Yeah, right up at the top right there. That was the Newtown Apartments on Door Street. My family, when they moved up here during the Great Migration, they came from Mississippi to that Junction neighborhood. So like aunts, uncles, you know, everybody kind of like, that was the spot. So I often, I live right over here off of Monroe and Upton, and I'll walk over there, or I'll walk to the east or whatever. But I walk over there because it's like home, you know what I'm saying? And anybody that knows that neighborhood, like there's change going on over there right now, but it's still like the average median income is 15 grand for most households over there, but you have a lot of home ownership. But there's transition. When I walk over into those neighborhoods, like there is that sense of community and there is that sense of connection. Those people that day, they were lit.
You know, like they were like, it was Sunday, man. It's like 82 degrees out, you know, I'm sweating, they're sweating, they were just having a good time. And that was one of those moments. There's actually a couple photographs on that wall that were like leading up to that moment. Just cause like, if I can, I stop and rap with anybody. But it was cool. I kicked it with them, man. Like one of the things with me, like I don't like make people feel awkward about anything. So if they offer me a drink or they offer me like a hit, you know, I'm not weed or whatever, like I'm gonna go ahead with that and do it because I like for people to feel comfortable. Now I have like, obviously I have like a line I won't cross, but I just, they were super cool, man. And I like sent them the photographs and one of the ladies, like she must've been gone because she was like, she cursed me out in an email. And I was like, wait, what? You know, but she didn't remember, you know, because she was having a good time. I couldn't judge like what level of intoxication she had, but it was a Sunday, dude. They had all the right to kick it, you know what I'm saying? And I was out there with them for about a solid hour. And then I walked home. But it was like, I love those moments with people, man. Like, it's the coolest thing in the world. And I've had like so many of those instances on a casual stroll where, like I meet people where they are. And like, I appreciate them welcoming me into their life, into their personal space. And I never make people feel like less than because they are intoxicated or whatever the case is. Like I don't try to like preach to them about anything that, you know, they should or shouldn't be doing, you know? So
we talked about that. How when we see a person, we think this is someone's child. You know? And when you approach them with that type of energy, then you yourself, you create this space, like safe space.
I mean, it is that, cause like a lot of my work, man. I mean, you can see it on the walls. Like I do try to like document the Black community because, especially Black men, because of the things that go on outside, and I never want anyone to be like forgotten. Like I have to have that. Like I see beauty in all people, but like I especially see beauty in like Black men. Like I've been through some things in Toledo, like some terrible stuff in Toledo. And so like when I go outside, like there's just certain things that I'm like looking for, you know what I'm saying? So like the kid that's up there, so you have the two photographs at the top. There's a kid with a bandana on right now. Like I always make sure that I put his photograph in one of my shows or show it somewhere because he was found dead 2 years later in a house with somebody else, and he was only 19 years old. So it's like, how do you help like people to remember somebody whose life is taken away? You know what I'm saying? And even if they died in a car accident, like that's the responsibility I walk with, where like I want people to be remembered, even if they encounter that photograph years from now. Like there's always a connection to those things because I feel like that sense of responsibility. So, which ties into our earlier conversation. That's the stuff that I'm like walking around with. So it's like when I see somebody, especially a young cat, I always had that fear of something going wrong and their life being cut short. And so that's like the drive with so much of my work, you know, like with so much of my work.
This is a time capsule. You know? And I think we deal with time differently in our practices where as a painter it's very immediate. And I can go back and work it, right? Whereas yours, it's a process that I don't know, it has these stopping points, or it has these places where you can't go back. You know, and so we're dealing with time in a different way, and it kind of goes into this idea of you as this storyteller. You know, like you're this invisible eye telling the story. You know, these are, you know, I mean, you take portraits of yourself, but even when you take portraits of yourself, it doesn't, you're still separate from that person, right? You know?
Yeah.
Still that invisible person.
Yeah.
So, yeah, say, if you could talk more about that, like, just, you know, where do you want that, how do you want that to flourish? This idea that, you know, this is a time capsule, you have this ability to hold time in a special way, even more so than a digital camera or that digital process, not to take away from that, but because your hand is involved in it, it's different, you know?
Yeah.
Like, where do you want that to go? Like, where like, one thing, one element, like, how would you want that to flourish? Like, what kind of, I mean, we talk about this, like, where do you know, how do you want to make space for, like, you call me a mentor, but you are yourself a mentor to other photographers. Like, what kind of wake are you trying to leave? You know?
I mean, I want to be that influence.
No pressure.
Yeah, I know, dude. I'm scrambling internally. I want to be like that influence. One of my like long-term goals is to like encourage like the type of storytelling that I try to accomplish in different communities around Toledo. So I want the South End to have a me. I want the North Side to have a me. I want the East. I want all these pockets to have somebody like me that's trying to do the same thing and try to tell these stories. How I'll get to that point, I have no idea. Like, I got some things I'm trying to work on, but if those don't happen, like, all I can do is keep doing this and be hopeful that, you know, my work falls into their hands somehow, you know, but like, nobody taught me this. I had to teach myself all of this stuff, from how to operate the camera, from like to you know, trying to produce this kind of work. Like, I had to do all this stuff on my own and learn it. And while I, you know, the self-teaching is a blessing, I would like to make that process easier for somebody else. You know what I'm saying? I had all of those failures. I walked all those hours. I put all those miles on. Like, I did all of this shit in order to be able to make the process easier for somebody else to take hold and to continue with. But, you know, right now it's just me. So all I can like be hopeful of is like,
we're still young.
I mean, yeah, you know, mad young, but still, you know, it's
we're still young.
life is different. You know what I'm saying? Like, something can happen to me walking around in these neighborhoods. It's not like I go to, I may go out there with good intent, man, but like, life happens.
You said that, like, going out, I mean, we know you. We know who you are. You're like one of the most warm person I know. You know? Warmest person I've known. But people don't know that. You know, you're like 6'4" or something like that? 6'3". And, you know, it was like Clifford.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like walking through a neighborhood.
So people don't know. And so you were saying, like, people, you know, approach you, they don't trust. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, like, you know, that is a real thing.
There's a risk there.
Yeah, there's a ton of risk. And I don't blame them for having that. You know what I'm saying? I don't blame them for like looking at me sideways when I hit their street. Yeah. I don't blame anybody for that because I'm in their space. Right. You know? And that's why, like, I've had those moments, man, where I'm talking to some dudes and I can see like an assault rifle laying on a trash can in the background. Yeah. So like, I want to keep walking, but I'm like, you know, part of me is like, all right, had that courage, finish this conversation. Yeah. But when I'm walking away, I'm like, shit, something could happen any minute now because they got that gun laying out there for a reason. Right. So it's different, man. Like, I know there's a risk to me like popping up, and even in like affluent areas, there's a greater risk. You know, like, you know, I had my situation with the police. A few people know about that. Like, they almost took my life away, you know what I'm saying, for just being me. Yeah. And it's, so I'm like worried about that when I go through areas, because sometimes I gotta go through an area with money in order to get to an area that I wanna be in. Right. And I'm not like purposely seeking out poor areas or this, that, and the third, but I wanna go where there's community and where there's not like, because in privileged areas, you know, everybody kicks it in their backyard because they're afraid to mingle. And so, like, in other neighborhoods, they're gonna be out front because we could converse across the street. You know, it's natural, it's organic, and I love that.
Yeah.
But when I'm in those areas, man, where everybody got an F-150 and their lawn is watering itself, and like all these things, I'm like, shit, man, I gotta be careful when I'm walking through these places.
Sure.
Because those people notice me. And I guess the drawback to my camera is that they use this to like strike up conversation and to like, it's disarming sometimes, but it's not disarming in a healthy way.
Right.
Because I know they're just trying to inspect me.
Yeah.
So,
because if I were, you know, if I was that, I would always have this idea of just having a lanyard on me, you know?
Man.
And like some Acme company, you know? Because I feel safe. You know, anyone with a lanyard is not a threat, you know? I can, but you have like, that's, you know, I see, you know, and you still investigate. You're not, you know, I remember the whole thing, you know, people rushing to Detroit to take pictures of all the ruin up there, you know, where you are trying to be honest to the story and look at everything from all these different facets.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
you make zombie crawl pictures look cool. You know what I'm saying? Not to say zombie crawl is not cool, but you know.
I mean, that's, I like trying to be as honest as I can, man, with my work, which is why I don't know Photoshop or anything like that. Like, I stay away from that stuff because I always want to retain like that honesty, you know. And I'm not dissing like anybody that uses like Photoshop or anything like that to create their work, because that's so much more patient. Like I said, I can't do anything digital. I don't have that focus to sit in front of my computer like that.
That tracks, because I had I asked you to come and photograph some of my work.
I still got that too.
And you almost just gave me the camera. You did. You gave me the camera. It's like, you do it.
Yeah.
I was like, gosh, why didn't you just take the picture?
Because I can't, dude. It causes anxiety.
Now I know.
Yeah.
And you left pretty quickly after that.
I did too. I can't handle it. You gotta know your weaknesses.
You gotta know
what I'm saying? You gotta know your weakness. So I don't have that patience, man. But like that honesty I try to carry in my work. I feel like people know that I respect the people I photograph. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and for me to like allow that to all remain intact. And I'm not the only person. Like, there's a significant amount of photographers that do that, but then there's like some people that may like alter image or do this or do that. But it's like I try to retain that honesty because I want people to like know and love the people that I'm photographing. And one of the cooler things that coolest messages I've ever received accidentally was like, a couple of years ago, this lady like accidentally DM'd me. She was messaging her friend and she was like, yo, I follow this guy that shows me another side of Toledo that I'm not privy to. And she accidentally DM'd me that message.
Nice.
And we had like a cute exchange, but that allowed me to know like people are like, they're trying to learn, they're trying to like invest themselves, they are trying to like they're trying to understand better because they know like they may not know how to access certain places or to know like, you know, there's things for them in this space, but they're trying to make an effort, you know, and that's really, that's the most that I can ask for somebody. You know what I'm saying? Is to like make an effort to like know these things or to try to be in a different space and try to learn about other people in the city that you live in. If you can't, you know.
I feel like we were talking about this kind of moving in these spaces in spite of our own, you know, awkwardness. You know, like how do you how do you work past that? You know, because you're approaching someone to take their photograph.
Right.
They don't know you, and you gotta establish trust like right then and there. Like this is there's stage photography, there's all kind of, but when you talk about like street photography, and then you talk about Midwest, it's not heavily populated, you know? So it's one thing like in New York where you're just standing on one corner and there's millions of people walk by. Like you have to go out and find those situations.
That's why it's super lonely. You're just walking and walking and walking and like, you know, I've been told sometimes I can be like super charismatic, man, but they don't realize like that's just me like vibing off of the person. You know what I'm saying? I as long as I can make a connection and find something like, I guess, joyful in that moment, I can talk, I can do these things, I can make this happen. But like when I hit that street corner, man, people don't know how nervous I am leading up to that person.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, damn, am I gonna be able to do this? What's gonna go right? What's gonna go wrong? Like, I cycle through all of these questions, and it's different, man. It's different. I had a situation where I had like this cool experience. It's an elder black man, and he's sitting down like watering his lawn, and he's got like a little dog running around, and like his wife and sister, they all like kind of hanging out like on the sidewalk just chilling, and that was super cool. But then I get up the street, and then there's this white family hanging out, and they're doing the same thing, and the conversation started off cool.
Yeah.
But then they're like, this was, in 2020, they're like questioning me about, black people rioting. And I'm just like, yo, that's kind of wild though, because this dude is going on about Houston rappers. And I'm like, all right, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, this is okay, this is cool. But then like once he like, oh, we don't know why people are rioting. And I'm like, but you sitting here talking about hip hop cats, man, that are like deep into community. But I felt like their connection to hip hop was just surface level.
Yeah.
Now this is another group of people, man, where they offer me drinks. So I'm sitting here like drinking with these people on a Thursday at 7. And I'm just hanging out with these cats, man. But the more I hung out with them, the lower like the conversation got. And I was just like, all right, I wrapped it up. But like part of me, like while I'm out there, I consider that one of those things that could easily go left. I was already uncomfortable, but because I'm not, I'm in somebody else's neighborhood. I don't know the cuts. I don't know how to escape this space. I ride out that conversation regardless of how ugly it gets. Mm-hmm. And I like start moving, but then I have to bring myself back to like reality. Cause like there wasn't anything that I could have said that would have convinced that there was 5 of these cats hanging out on their porch. There wasn't anything that I would have been able to say that would have changed their opinion. Right. And them not knowing, that I had my police altercation and all this stuff. And how, George Floyd's death impacted me and everybody else. Right. Regardless of that proximity to them, knowing that somebody else has suffered from police brutality and almost died from that wouldn't have changed their opinion. You know what I'm saying? Like they were locked into what they believed. And having that conversation with yourself while all of this is kind of unfolding, because it's like, bro, you offered me a drink. We talking about hip hop, like, you can welcome me into your life, but you can't. But there's
you make people forget. You make people forget.
And like, man, it was weird. It was weird that it got to that point.
Yeah.
So I have those types of conversations with people, and journalists, like real deal journalists, probably know better how to handle that kind of stuff. But for me, it's always like I don't expect it, but I should always expect it. You know what I'm saying? You
were out there at the protest in front of the police station. Wait, was I supposed to say that?
You can say that.
Okay.
I mean, I think
you may have been there.
No.
I don't know.
No. But I mean, that photograph, that second photograph with the kids that say, I can't breathe, that was shot that day. And that photograph looks staged and it's 100% candid. I mean, I didn't recognize that everyone outside of the person with the I Can't Breathe shirt, that's who I was focused on, but everybody else saw me and they kind of locked in. And that photograph looks totally 100% staged, pros, all of that stuff. And that's 100% candid. That was a day, man. That was a super intense day. Like I have a lot of respect for people that go into protests and like document those events. Any war journalists, all of that stuff. I would love to do it. I don't know if I could stomach it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Just because of my own experiences.
Right.
Like I got a scar on my shoulder from the police thing because I've been tasered. I was tasered 4 times, had my arm broken, and I had a heart attack in that night. Mm-hmm. So like I have a daily reminder. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if I could do the same things or interact with the same people that. And even working, with the public, like when I like have to deal with police, like I have to always kind of check myself, because when I see them like abusing power, I want to like get in that ass, but like I can't, you know, because I'm at work. But it's difficult, man. It's difficult to see all of that and see it and hear it and have people like kind of question why when the knowledge is out there. You know what I'm saying?
I think, and everyone that I feel that know you personally, know that you carry a weight with you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I just want like to honor that, you know, and say that I see that.
Yeah, appreciate
we see that, and we appreciate the fact that even in spite of that type of weight, still like press and make the work that you want to make. You know, like you are that invisible storyteller. We don't, you know, the general public, you know, they can appreciate your photographs and see the work that you're doing, but it's that intangible thing, the thing that you can't touch, the thing that you can't see, the thing that's behind the camera. Yeah. And that, you know, that lives outside of you. I just feel like you embody something that, what is a photographer? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Who is someone that holds history and takes, you know, and takes time, you know? Like we say always, like, take your time. Like you're literally taking time. Right. You know? That's weight. That's a lot of weight, you know?
It is, man. Like I completely agree. I mean, I think back to when my great uncle passed like 2 years ago. He was 92, and what that meant to my mom, because a year prior we were burying my uncle, her brother, you know, in Greenwood, Mississippi. So I got like the last photograph of her and my uncle Fruit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And like that was something, like that was her last connection, because like he looked just like her mom, my grandmother, you know? So like when he passed away, that was a lot for her. But like I got this photograph of them two together, you know? And like owning time like that is crazy for people, for me, because like who predicted, you know, this dude was gonna die a year later? Probably, I think it was a little under a year. But I will say in that moment, with us being down there, like I knew I had to make that photograph because this dude's 90 something years old, like, you know. Yeah. And he's sitting there telling us stories about how he like him and his friends like stole like horses or something because they lived on plantations, and you know, like this dude is like telling these crazy stories, and you gotta believe this cat. Right. You know, like you gotta believe him, because that's, and you know, Greenwood, Mississippi, was population now is only like 11,000 people. It's probably way smaller back then, but that was something to give her. But I know she still wrestles around with that loss. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I know she still wrestles around with it. So 92, man, I hope I lived that moment. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I could still keep taking pictures up until that point. Yeah. But you know, with everything that I have, everything that's in front of us, again, a lot of this work is about retaining some part of life. I think for me, because I mean, there's a lot I have encountered a lot that I would never wish on anybody else. And you know, like I'm in therapy, I'm doing all these things to like help myself, but like it's still like you never forget. You know what I'm saying? Like you never forget any of that stuff. And so when I'm out and I'm trying to make sense of the world in my own way, you know, I just do it.
And you share.
I do share it. Yeah, I do try to share it.
That right but there.
Like, yeah.
Well, I think we're at a point where it's we can open it up for Q&A. What do you think?
That's super cool, man. If anybody has any questions or anything. Krista.
I have questions that I will ask you later. But also, it was cool to hear about your process. And I always forget, like, just thinking about film and it being like that such a chemical process. And you talk so much about your feelings, taking photographs, like bodily chemicals in the process. And I guess I'm kind of curious to know, like, how did you like start to like allow yourself to go into that? Because you don't have to, like, you say you're awkward, but when you're starting photography, it's like even more awkward.
Yeah.
Right? So like, I guess I'm just thinking, like, what were you able, how did you open yourself up, putting yourself in a place where you're like, oh shit, I shouldn't be here, but like, I feel like I need to be here. It's like really confusing, you know? Like, do that.
I challenge myself, you know what I'm saying? Like, I challenge myself. Like, if anybody, like, I don't write down any goals. I don't know why I don't do this, but every year I look at the work that I've done and I say, how can I improve? And so that led me to get closer to people, to have better conversations with folks. You with photography, like, you kind of start out just trying different stuff. Like, you want to figure out, you know, where you should be at with your work. And I knew, like, I needed some form of human interaction. That police situation made me kind of close off the world for like 10 years. You wouldn't catch me downtown after 9 o'clock. The moment the sun set, it was a wrap. Because that situation happened right across the street here. Well, before the Huntington was built, there was a subway over here. And that's where everything happened. So it's kind of weird to be sitting here telling this story and saying, like, this is all of the work that I had to do to put myself back into society, knowing that shit happened like right across the street. It actually started at this thing. So just to dive into it, I'm not a vicious guy. This was just like a situation happened at the bar right here, and did the right thing by waiting for like the crowd to break up and all this stuff, and left out in Toledo. TPD are monsters, you know, at night especially. They saw 8 Black and Mexican people going to their cars, and like that was that whole like shoot first, ask questions later type of situation. And later that night I had a heart attack. So for me, like, that, they don't recognize trauma that put on somebody, and I had to live with that. And like, I would go into places and get nervous if I went to the early period stages of the attic, for instance. Like, I used to get nervous at the attic, you know what I'm saying? So it was too many people. If something happened in here, like, I'm gonna be the first person that gets fucked up. I'm sorry, there's a kid in here. I don't mean to curse. But like, you walk around with that trauma, or even just going to a sporting event, man, I would just always be nervous, and that made me kind of closed off, where like, I'm not a drinker, like, I'm super like lightweight, you know, 1 or 2 drinks and I'm done. And people, like, I felt like it started to turn people off, because they would offer me drinks and I would be like, nah, because I gotta be 100% sober just in case something happens and I can escape. So with the photography thing, like, because I knew I couldn't survive being out at night, I started going out during the daytime, and I started walking. I would take my kids to school, and I would literally drop them off at school, and I would come down here or go to the east, and I would walk until I needed to go pick them up. So I would put in 7 hours in those early stages of just walking around, figuring out what I needed to do. And then like, I would like reflect on what I did. I had a digital camera at that point, but my discipline, even with a digital camera, was like, if I met somebody on the street, I would only take 1 or 2 pictures of them, and I wouldn't even look at what I did until I got home. So that was the only way I could kind of calm myself down when doing this. But like, I had to keep pushing, you know, like, I knew there was something I was chasing, but I think what I was chasing was just the ability to be around people again. And like, I might go out now, and every so often I'll have a moment where it's like, all right, there's too many people in here, like, let me find a corner to go hang out in. But you know, it's definitely much better. So it was like, you know, photography was that therapy for me. So like every year I push myself to do more with what I'm doing. And that's how I kind of got back into the world, into society. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. Yeah. What else?
Your lens. It's Toledo.
That's a great question. Toledo actually has much more community than it that's probably visible. Like I know, like we have like, you know, these street teams that are trying to show you all of the touristy parts of Toledo, but there's actually like so much more community in our neighborhoods that people don't get a chance to interact with. I was having this conversation the other day about like, how do you make Toledo visible, especially culturally? And we usually have like people that are like wake up and go kick it at the Greek Fest, so they might go to the German American Festival, but like the African American Festival, like they don't see the same traction as everything else. Or the Juneteenth, now that people are having celebrations there, you don't see the same traffic. And so it's like, I see those communities, I see what can be present, but I definitely notice less population when it comes to certain people. And so Toledo has community, and we can definitely like bridge all of that so everybody like learns from each other. But I don't think, I think people look at that community like, or the sense of community as like, if I can't make money from it, why am I going? And that's kind of like the bottom line for me. You know what I'm saying? I feel like people miss out on educating themselves or experiences just because they feel like they can't go enjoy something, but like it's a festival. You know what I'm saying? Come party. So it's always been like walking through these streets, like Toledo's taught me that there is community that exists. You know what I'm saying? You can go to the Birmingham area and hang out over there. You can go anywhere. I will say this though, I do like kind of bum out when I'm on the street. So like I dress down when I'm on the street. So like, I feel like that's another component that like makes me welcoming to people, because I'm not like the flyest dude walking down the street, because you know that can make you a target real easy. But that's just
sorry. You don't dress down, James. Okay, everybody knows.
No man, look, I just have on like a t-shirt and some like old shorts I had for 12 years. You know, like I just like I keep it chill. In here I'm alright. But like I don't try to go to these neighborhoods and discover these communities with like a chip on my shoulder and like try to show these different I'm not trying to go in there and say I'm better than you or I have more money or any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Cause that can like change the conversation. You know what I'm saying? So
I can just splatter some paint on you.
Yeah, man. Like I just want to be like accessible. So I'll try to leave myself like as open to conversation and community and conversation and connection as much as possible. So like when I go into different neighborhoods, like I try to be as average as I can, because I don't know if I'm talking to you on the street that you just lost whatever in your life and you like, man, I'm about to take it from this dude because he looked like he got coins on. And so I think about those things. But Toledo, I can say, and that this is like, I'm sorry, man, it's taking a long time to really answer your question. But Toledo has like so much community, man, but I feel like there's just this fear to engage, like that's it.
In Toledo, like, I think too, it's, I went to, this is a pretty good example. I went to Spain, right? It's very extreme. And there's buskers and people on the streets, probably the same thing in any large city. And this man was playing a mandolin or something. Yeah. It was like beautiful. It was like, but I learned when you're there, you don't clap. You just say, hey, put a little coin in there and you leave, And then Rachel comes out there and she sits there, she stands there, and at the end she's like, oh man. And I'm just like, no, stop clapping. You know what I mean? Yeah. But like, I feel like people here, like, we look at space different. Like we look at proximity different.
Yeah.
Because there's ample space for you.
Right.
So if you're in proximity to me, then there's a reason there. You want to be there.
Right.
It's, you know, in larger cities
Right.
where there's not a lot of space, there's not a lot, and then there's not a lot of time.
Right.
Here, you run into any man over 60, you're there for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you know that.
Yeah.
You don't get that anywhere else. You won't
Right.
get that here.
Right. That's what makes it pretty. Like, I love
Yes.
that. You know what I'm saying?
You
Like,
can
that's what makes
you
it
can
that.
stand out. Anyone stand out there in the middle of the street
Right.
for 30 minutes. There won't
Yeah.
be one car coming. You'll be fine. It's desolate,
Right, man.
but it really it's
When you meet
it's-
somebody.
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I love what I do here. You know, like
Yeah.
I can meet that person, I can hang out with them. Like I said, a lot of these people I've been able to. The picture of the two guys here, and the one's got like a shiesty mask on, and the other, the bigger one with the guy with the ski mask. I was at the tail end of a 4-hour walk, and I had already like stopped and visited a few people on my way back. But that was right here at the Monroe carryout. And that was one of those moments where I had like a slight panic attack because, you know, somebody jumps out of a car with a mask on.
Yeah,
And just like,
right.
man, this is not the day for me.
Yeah.
But we talked, we hung out, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we hung out for probably a half hour, 45 minutes. And I ended up meeting other people, you know, hanging out at the gas station up here or the corner store up here.
Yeah.
And so like those opportunities exist, man, where, again, man, Toledo has like such a like welcoming community. They just don't like recognize that it comes from anybody. You know what I'm saying?
I was putting a mural up there on Detroit and Highland,
Yeah.
and the whole like X block came out.
Yeah.
And after I, you know, gathered myself,
Yeah.
you know, then Mom came out and gave me pictures of the young men that were shot at that store years ago.
Yeah.
My kids lived right down the street from that store.
Yeah.
And I think as a photographer, and then seeing like the thing about Toledo, go back to your question, Vic, like you have 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
Anywhere
You
else,
do.
here it's negative.
Yeah.
And then you with your camera, you're compounding that even more.
Yeah.
So the woman on the top right, her name is Dee.
Yeah.
She took my kids in when I didn't have a place, and we were looking for, like, I was literally coming from a homeless situation.
Yeah.
She took my kids in so they could stay. They stayed in her apartment, her 2-bedroom apartment,
Word.
two-bedroom apartment, so they could go to school in Washington local.
That's sweet, man.
And then
Yeah,
until
that's
we
dope.
found an apartment across the hall from her, the ice cream lady.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
her.
That was a solid day too.
You didn't know
I
that.
didn't know that at all. Yeah.
And here it is. You're giving us a portrait of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you know who is Toledo. You know,
Right.
you're doing something that Destination Toledo could never do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and it's always about the people. It's always about the relationship.
Always. Yeah.
As many, I paint murals, and we were talking about this. I could care less about the mural.
Yeah.
I know that will crumble one day, but the journey and the struggle that we go through just to get the mural on the wall, that's the real thing,
Right.
you know?
Right.
I feel like the beauty of your work, because it's, you're using that development, that time after the fact, kind of goes back to Kristen's question about like, you're in this dark room, you chose to use chemicals and do that chemical process.
Yeah.
Right, that right there gives value to the person.
Mm-hmm.
You're spending time with that person.
Yeah. I like that. I like that.
One thing I just want to comment that one thing I love about your photography, it's kind of going off what you were just saying, is that you like give dignity and voice to the subject aspect of the photo where I feel like sometimes people come in and they just read photography and they look at the person for like a specimen that they're photographing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
and I love that you are photographing the person in there.
Yeah.
But
Appreciate
then
that.
I'm going to the part, like the processing, because you can't like not as much crazy stuff as you can do in Photoshop, but the way that you choose to use those chemicals can change the photo. So do
Right.
you, like, are you always like doing kind of the same timing, same process, same type of paper every time, or do you kind of change it up depending on you feel like what fits this that?
If I got that experimental, I would probably collapse.
Okay, always just like
It's
this
always
time,
the
this is
same.
always whatever. This is, yeah.
I'm like a creature of habit. I mean, just like I said, man, I have anxiety. Like, so I want to do those things, and I actually sit up late at night when my brain is spinning. Like, how can I experiment? And then I go into my dark room and I just keep it straight. You know, I shoot a lot of film, and so for me to have the time, you know, I'm a father. Like, I have to like take care of my kids, you know, before they go back to their mom's house. I got to do all of this stuff. And so like, I can't like venture out as much as I would love to. And so like, I do like want to get to a point where I'm able to experiment a lot more with the things that I do, the look and feel, texture, all of that stuff. But like, for right now, I have to standardize that process in order to like not fall behind on life. Because when I struggle, when I slip into like those dark moments, it's because I put too much in front of me. You know what I'm saying? So like, in order for me to like control me, like I have to standardize everything. So I only use one kind of film, one kind of paper, one kind of developer. I can do this stuff in my sleep, but that's just to make me feel sane, you know? So, but I do dream of experimentation. I would love to do that stuff. And sometimes like I might try it, but
you did a series actually where you took two people. It was a double exposure.
oh yeah.
So it's my chin and then like Naima's, top of her head, and it merged together. And you were
that
like,
was the only time.
yeah. You were like, I don't know what this film is gonna do. I think it was like, something that you never,
We were trying some stuff.
Yeah.
That was the only time I've ever experimented.
Oh, okay.
That was the only time. I had to go right back to normal after that, man. I was like, this stuff gets expensive, man.
Sure,
like,
sure.
dark room, everything in here I printed at home, with the exception of those giant pieces. But all of this stuff I printed at my place. And I love the process. I got to start wearing a respirator because like I'm inhaling all of this stuff. Yeah, I know, right? It got to me, man. Making this show, I was in my dark room for probably 8 hours a day, and by the end of it, I was like, I couldn't breathe, man. It was a foolish choice, but here you are. Like I'm like dedicated to that, to like this one process, and like as long as the stuff is there for me to access, like I'm always going to keep to that. But just like I mentioned with a digital camera, if I ever have to go back to a digital camera and I'm still doing the same thing, I'm only gonna allow myself 1 or 2 pictures of somebody. And like, it took a lot of patience to like not look at that, after I made the image, and then just like go home and like reflect on everything that I did. But when I started doing that, I noticed how much more my work got better. You know what I'm saying? Because I was only focused on the person versus whether or not my camera settings or this or that. And I took a lot of losses. And I still take losses with film. Like I take a ton of risks, but it's like I have more regret for not trying than anything. So it's like, regardless if I get the image or not, I'm just excited that I did it, So yeah, that's a good question. Yep. This show was actually curated. So I gave Paula here like 110 photographs. It was a lot. I feel like I did send you like 2 Dropbox folders with a bunch of pictures. Theme-wise, man, like, it's a struggle. It's a struggle to come up with a theme for the stuff that I do. Like I do have like a couple things that I touch on, like Black fatherhood, And so like I always, like when I go out and I see a black guy with his kids, like I gotta make a picture of that. Because if there's anything that I leave behind, it's like the redefinition of black fathers, you know? Like I want people to stop saying like, oh, you know, this is your situation and blah, blah, blah. And people can have shitty fathers in their lives. That happens to everybody, right? This is a real thing, but it's not something that's a black only experience, you know? So like, there's themes from that. There's themes that I see in my work that are, like lately I've been photographing people at drive-thrus. Like if somebody looks dope, whatever, you know, like I make pictures of them at the drive-thru, or like I got a like running collection. This is probably the hardest collection that I've ever worked towards, but like at stoplights, I try to photograph people, but I'm like asking like, yo man, can I get your photograph? You know, like, so I'm doing this, but now I'm gonna come up, that'll be a theme, that'll eventually be a body of work that I can share with somebody. So I guess what I wanna say is like, I don't know what I'm doing in that moment. You know what I'm saying? I know what I'm looking for, but like coming up with a show, the best thing I could tell you is like print your work on like 4x6s and edit it. You know, like there's stuff that I've studied. Gregory Halpern is one of my favorite photographers, and I watched his process when it comes to like editing his work for books. And a lot of these cats, they'll just like spread work out on the floor and they'll look for stuff that like makes sense and like try to make those. But like for me, and like another thing that I have, like one day I'm gonna release my Kroger series to the public because I've been making photographs at Kroger's. Which is so much fun. I know people don't like the Kroger's on Monroe, but I love that place. Kroger's on Monroe is a godsend, dude. That is my spot. I would, if I could hang out there without them getting creeped out, I would love
like
to
go
hang
there
out
now.
at Kroger's.
Go there now.
I go
you know?
all the time, man. For the smaller, I'm gonna go buy pencils at Kroger's, so I know I'm gonna make a picture or something.
Yeah.
So that one and the Glendale one. Those are my spots, dude.
Yeah,
I swear to God. I swear to God.
The fire department is always there.
Yeah, for random things. It's always something, right?
Yeah.
So,
And they're shopping.
yeah.
They're not.
Yeah, they're just hanging out. And they're like, we might as well buy some things, check that list. But as far as themes go, man, like, I think you would see for you a theme in your work. Print that stuff out if you got that ability, or like share it with a few people and like ask them what they see in your work and kind of go from there. Yeah. 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 So there's an article I could share with you it's on Artsy, man. Like a lot of it is my peers, you know. So like your people are the ones that help you grow. Like I owe everybody in this room a thank you, you know what I'm saying, for being present and checking my stuff out. Talent is 10% of it, but like just like talk to your people, like the people that communicate with you. Like it's in this article, they talk about Basquiat and how like Basquiat may have had like a 10-block radius when it came to people knowing about his work. But just by him hanging out with Andy Warhol, it grew to miles and miles. And so it was like your peers help you kind of grow and they support you. So one thing I can do is share your work and help you build. And that kind of goes back to what I want to do in different communities with photography and try to advance photography by sharing work. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. My biggest struggle is being on social media right now. Like, it's tough, dude. So like, I try to like get in there and like, you'll see like short bursts where I share a bunch of stuff and then I gotta decompress from it. Cause it's that attention span.
I figured I don't know if this is a real thing, but social media etiquette fatigue.
Okay, that makes sense.
When to post, how to post, who to tag, where to tag, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
it's
too
just
much.
like, oh wait, I didn't post this.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna be upset about
Yeah.
this. It's like, no one cares.
Yeah, dude, I burn out.
Yeah.
By the time I hit post, and I make mistakes on there all the time, but it's because I'm burning out. It's like, man, I want to post something and I'm excited to post it. And then by the time I get to the point where I'm like, hit that button to release it to the world, it's so many mistakes and stuff because I'm just burned out on the experience.
Yeah.
So, you know, for cats like yourself, I would definitely try to share your work and get it out there. You know, like I personally would be that person who has a platform to share your work so that other people can absorb it. That's how it's supposed to work.
I would add too, man, rumor is a beautiful way.
Yeah.
When it's, we look at rumor as a negative thing, but rumor in a positive way, like tangible objects, like Basquiat gave, sold postcards to Andy Warhol. It started with something tangible, like that tangible thing, that the actual object is a good thing too. There's always these different portals.
Yeah. So, yeah, we can continue that conversation, man, because there's so much, man. We can go on for days. I would rather give you the knowledge than use it myself, because I hate my patience, dude, and it might be my age at this point, but like my patience is like nothing. I'd rather just go photograph people all day, So, anybody have any other questions?
This young man in the front, and then
who want to go for? Let's go. Okay, the ladies first, or you want to go? Ladies.
Go ahead.
It seems like it's more about the work and the process than it is about the ending out there.
Yeah, it's definitely about the people. Like that's number one. I'm terrible when it comes to like sharing my own work. That's why I say I have to thank my peers. I love the moments, connection with people. I love talking to folks. Like that's all. Like I live for that. But then I feel guilty. So I guess I could put it like that. My Instagram posts, my social media posts are made out of guilt, because like I'm holding these stories and these moments to myself, and I'm super happy about them. But it's like, damn, I'm not sharing this with anybody else. I need to put this out into the world so that I can continue sharing those memories and like letting people be known. So I make that stuff out of guilt. Like that's the big thing. So yeah, it's always going to be about the people. Even at my job, even like anybody that knows me knows like where my heart is at. And it's always going to be about people. I don't like. So like I had my New York Times experience and all of that stuff recently. That was dope. That was dope. That's definitely a milestone. But the people that I like end up photographing that day meant more to me than like making it into this like magazine, into this publication. Like that was a dope moment. I'm super proud that I got into that, But the people I made after finding out that was published, the photographs that happened after that were much more important to me than that moment. So if that makes sense. So yeah. What's your question, my man?
So I do parkour, that's how I do parkour. It's like
Right. Yeah.
What you do with like photography, all of it, it's all art. What you speaks to people exactly.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to someone?
That's a great question. What's your circle like? What's the circle of people around you like? All right. All right, so my next question for you is, when you're out there doing your thing, if a little dude comes up, little girl or whatever, do you guys try to show them what you're doing? All right, so you're already on that path. There's kids on these walls that I let use my camera when I bump into them on the street. You doing that exact thing helps build energy. There's energy you're putting behind yourself by communicating with those young people. That's like, it just grows. You're not gonna like recognize this in the moment. You know what I'm saying? Like it'll be something that years later, even for me, years later, here we are, this is the thing. But there's kids on the wall over there, there's kids, this kid right here, which I call, he's part of my Promenade Park Boys series. Right down the street from here was him and four of his homies just hanging out, and I let those kids like use my camera and make photographs of each other. And actually all four of those kids are on the wall back there too. But it's again, I'm always going to focus on people. So you doing that and you like encouraging more people to explore and do that research is what helps build. The drawback is that you're not going to be able to see that when it's happening around you. You know what I'm saying? It's going to take some time for that to move. Anybody that's really creating something and doing something, like for you to stop and bear witness to all of that, you're halting yourself, you know, because you don't want to, I personally don't want to be aware of what's going on. I just want to keep on creating. And you guys practicing and doing all these things and being consistent and being present, you're influencing people around you that are able to witness that. So when it comes to growing a presence, like, you don't worry about that. It'll come. Like, that's a natural thing.
Yeah, they'll
As long
find
as y'all
you.
are doing that. Right.
Like, I remember as a little kid, my parents had a conniption fit. They didn't know where I was. I went down the street to the library because I knew the guy that draws this is in Columbus. He would go to the library and draw the comic book strip for the newspaper the next day. And I knew exactly where he was, what time. I went there, and they're gonna find you, you know? Just continue to do what you do,
Right.
and when they find you, have something, you know? And then just keep creating that
Just keep going,
ecosystem.
dude.
You're like, you're at the center of this ecosystem,
Right.
you know? Just share it.
Yeah. So keep that up, man. You know what I'm saying? It's always about the youth. It's always about, to me especially, it's always about the youth. I mean, even just encouraging adults around me. Like, as long as you're doing it, that gives somebody else the courage to keep going. So share that with your homies, man. You know. Anybody have any other questions?
Yeah. So, what do you usually
Man, dude, that's a great question. Honestly, dude, that's crazy. So much like stands out. So I was flipping through. The New York Times has this book called The Unseen. It's about a lot of it's work made by Black photographers, right? And so, like, in one of those pages, back when my parents were in their 20s in Greenville, Mississippi, one of those voting locations was bombed, and I was able to ask them about that and show them that, and my dad's pointing out all these locations and saying all this stuff. So what I want to say is, like, I would probably want to go back to that era and try to, like, document more things and tell more stories and get things out there. One of the cooler parts of history for me is, like, when the Black and Beautiful, that whole era of work came out, because these guys were like, Kwame Braithwaite, he just had an exhibit at DIA that's been circulating around, because he was kind of the person that pushed that out there. This is in the 60s and 70s, and you had a Kamaji group who sought to change the narrative about Black people, because whenever you open up a newspaper, there was always like negativity surrounding this, and so you had this group of Black male and female photographers that were trying to change something, and they did that. I would have loved to have gone back and been a part of that era, to like be, you know, even just a fly on the wall, because there was so much that they did that paved the way for me. It wasn't just Gordon Parks. There was a ton of folks that were doing things, and I would want to learn from them. I would want to be amongst those people and like just contribute the way that I'm contributing right now. It's just a lot. Even from the hip hop standpoint, like 2 years ago about a year ago, I met Jamel Shabazz, if people are familiar with that cat. And every so often I talk to him. And just knowing and watching his documentary and being able to rap with that dude, like, I would have loved to have been like his student, you know, because we had like the same like focus on people. And in that moment of making work, we're not thinking about what it looks like 50 years from now. We just want to see our people be represented in the right way. And it would be crazy, man, to like exist during the civil rights era or any time after that. I mean, we still are in the civil rights era, you know, for so many other folks, you know, like it's, you know, there's a lot to say about that, but I think that's a great question. I don't think I've ever thought about that before, dude. I appreciate you for saying that. Like, yeah, all right, yeah.
You got one piece of work.
Mm-hmm.
At 50, maybe 75, you want your students like, basically, well, you want to have to be one piece of work. What piece of work?
Man, man, I don't know. You know, like that's a great question. I can easily point to the photograph at the protest and say that that's something, because like the energy from all of those young people was magnificent, and that's what drew me to that moment. But there's greater conversation to have. Man, I don't know what I would use. That's a great question too, man. You like throwing them out there.
Hey,
Yeah.
the picture you took, what was one of the kid named Ewok. That might be him though.
Yeah.
That picture, Ewok, shaking the copy. You remember that?
Nah.
Right,
Hey, yeah. I need to check that out.
Ewok, you know, he used to get so serious, all this, you know, trying to be a leader in the community or whatever.
Yep.
All the questions. Back competition. He somehow connected.
Yeah.
You got a picture.
Man, look, I take a lot of pictures, man. I don't have to like look through that. Do you know? So I wasn't even gonna share that work, and Imani, Yusuf's brother, had reached out to me because he was trying to launch a website. I wasn't gonna share any of those photographs, and yeah, you know, through him, like, was why I ended up sharing that stuff. And I wasn't like trying to like put it out there, but like, that was such an emotional experience for me personally that I was just like, I didn't even like any of this stuff. I was just like, it was just gonna die right after I did all of this work. And yeah, nah, I feel like somebody else, that might be somebody else that did that. But yeah, share it with me, man, because I haven't looked at that work since that period. Like, that's the only photograph that I made. So I like cut that. Again, that was such an emotional experience. I cut that whole like segment out of my space. That would be crazy though, you know. But I don't know if I have a photograph that I would want to be like definitive, that I would want people to like, just one that I want people to learn from. I mean, I would probably say the guy with the shiesty mask, I would want them to like look at that photograph and like think about misconceptions about people and their biases. You know what I'm saying? Like, years from now, these guys had hoodies on. It could have been super cold that day. You know, I feel like it was probably like 60 or so out. It was probably, it actually was during February. It was like, temperature was like this. Cause I always manage to get out in February and then it gets like dumb cold. But I would like for people to see that. I want people to like look at folks and not try to remove your biases, you know, like see something like that. And if you can only think of criminals when you see that picture, then you're already doing yourself a disservice. So I'm the total opposite, man. I don't want to give you some pretty picture that makes you think like, oh, this loving family, or oh, this, that, and third. Like, I want you to see people that you feel like you would avoid. Like I said, they scared me when they jumped out with those hoodies, with the mask on, because I'm like, shit, it's about to go down. But
I will say, if I'm gonna be biased, to somebody in a ski mask.
Yeah, you always have to like, you know, you gotta be careful.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna ever like shy away from that fact. But we end up kicking it. You know what I'm saying? I still don't know what that guy looks like.
Oh,
But
okay. I was gonna say, did he take the mask off?
Nah. Wait, actually, let me think. I'll have to look at my negatives. He might have at some point, and I snuck another photograph. cause I like doing candid stuff. So that one, they kind of just jumped into, but I try to like accomplish like a candid picture too when people are like relaxed. But I would say that picture would be the one that I would love for people to like look at. And like, again, Dave Chappelle, man, in one of his early like comedies, for all of the brilliance that this dude exhibited early in his career, he said he knows why police treat all black people the same. And he was like, it's because we all dress alike. And I was like, damn, this dude always knows how to like slide something in there that makes you think. He was like, because he was being harassed in DC, and he was like, I was a total nerd, blah, blah, blah. But he was like, we all dress the same. So they can't tell the difference between a criminal or a regular ass black dude. And that made me think, because our style, like everything that we do, like people are already gonna see it and assume that the worst. They could look at you with your fit and say like, this dude is, capable of mass murder if they wanted to. You know what I'm saying? Like, it don't matter. Like, we all got like that, the way we dress, the things that we do, like there's nothing that's gonna separate us from good and bad. We're just gonna be viewed in a certain way. And so, that's always stuck with me, because I actually experienced that right after the police altercation. So it even like stood out even more to me, because that night, dude, I had on like a sweater, like this cool ass sweater, man. Like, we had, my kid's mom like had just lost somebody, and like people, it was a funeral, people came into town, so we still had like some of our funeral attire on, like we were just super chill, came out to this place, and regardless of how dipped I was that day, I still ended up, in the hospital with a heart attack, so it don't matter the presence or how I look, the same shit can happen just because of how I look. And so I would rather people see that photograph in the back, and like learn from that picture more than anything. So
I think the Kroger suit.
Kroger's, that's gonna be some eye-opening stuff. Because Kroger's is,
those are gonna age. Interestingly.
Yeah.
I think
The Kroger stuff is magnificent, man. I love that, dude. I love being there, man. I wish I could just hang out. I wish Kroger's was a street corner that I could just like hang out in, dude. Cause like, it's just so cool.
Me and Naima ran into you.
Dude, I see all the homies, man, at Kroger's, and I just like, I make friends. Like, it's the social event that people don't experience. They're not expecting like Kroger's to be this thing, but you can get alcohol, you can get some food. You can hang out at Kroger's if you really wanted to, man.
That's a rare occasion too. I'm not allowed to go to Kroger's because I take too long. Because I read the labels.
Yeah, dude.
So I've been banned. So the fact that we've been
able to put you out of Kroger's.
So it was good that we were able to run into each other.
Yeah, I love those, dude. I mean, so my buddy, man, Bugs, Mike Carter, man. So right before he passed away, that was crazy. I bumped into him at Kroger's, and then like 2 weeks later, he passed on. So that was crazy. Because he was just telling me about, another friend of ours that had got married, and he was kind of coming off of that, and then 2 weeks later, this dude, died. And so I'm never not gonna have my camera because I always worry about that type of stuff, So and I was like a childhood friend. So yeah, Kroger's, man, that's the spot, man. Yeah, Kroger's the spot.
Well, I want to say thank you for opening yourself for us to engage like this. Thank you for carrying the weight for us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And again, wonderful exhibition, and we all look forward to seeing the rest of your bloom.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Thanks.
Appreciate you.
Me and James are a part of an organization called Toledo Black Artists Coalition. We're developing it now, so feel free to ask us about it. Also, meet somebody that you don't know here, connect with someone. I think that's kind of, me and James is kind of those. That's kind of what we do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, if anything, use this room to like, you know, say what's up and meet someone that you never know what could happen from this space right now. Like, the amount of value and beauty in this room right now is like, man,
It's wonderful.
So, and you're probably gonna take some portraits.
I am going to take pictures. I am.
Thanks, everybody.
Do not rush out of this place.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. It was solid, man. It was cool, bro.
Of course, man.
Yeah.
Of course.